I'm Ken Schaefer, and I'm here to discuss all things related to men's sexual health. I'm up to the T and the ABCs of men's sexual health. And the word of the day is testosterone. So, this is going to be a discussion that I will enjoy because there is a lot of misinformation and misunderstanding out there. Every man has a unique need for a certain level of testosterone to be healthy. And what do I mean by that? So when you go to the doctor and he or she takes a testosterone test, you get back a number, a set of numbers, hopefully. Some doctors will just test total testosterone, which is unfortunate because total testosterone is probably the least important of all the testosterone numbers. But hopefully, your doctor will order a testosterone test that covers total testosterone, free testosterone, and bioavailable testosterone, and a few other things that are important to your sexual health, like estradiol and sex hormone binding globulin. And there are other tests that the doctor can order that will give you a more complete picture. All right, so you're going to get back some numbers. The numbers cover a wide range. So, right now, what's considered normal, a total testosterone level of anywhere between 300 and 1,000. And that varies a little bit depending on the testing facility and the population they're comparing you against. But that's roughly what's considered normal. And what normal represents is a statistical calculation. I don't want to get into the weeds about statistics here. So I'm going to try to discuss this in a non mathematical way, but most people understand what an average is. And a lot of people understand what a mean is. So in statistics, they will take the mean, which is more or less the same thing as an average. They'll take the mean test result and then they do a set of calculations that, and the calculations are called standard deviations, and there are multiple standard deviations from the mean. And so the first standard deviation covers, I think it's 68% of the population. So if you go from average and then expand that to cover 68%, that's one standard deviation. Okay, then there's two standard deviations, which cover 95% of the population. So what they do to determine normals, they take the average and they do this calculation, and anyone that falls within two standard deviations or 95% of the population is considered normal. Okay, so what's the problem with this? Well, there's not a problem with that per se. They are defining normal range. Unfortunately, it's a statistical calculation. Nowhere in that definition of normal is healthy. Okay, this is important. You can have a normal level of testosterone and not have a healthy level of testosterone. Normal does not mean healthy. Normal means you fall within that 95% of the population. So, why doesn't normal mean healthy anymore? And did it ever? I'm not sure that it ever did, but what is going on is that over the past several decades, the average testosterone level has fallen dramatically. And some studies are saying it's fallen by 50%. So when the average testosterone level has fallen by 50%, that shifts the normal range. So what's happening is that something is affecting the health of men. Something is affecting their ability to produce testosterone, and it's making them unhealthy. And the more unhealthy people you have in a population, the more unhealthy levels get normalized. So we have this situation where doctors and the general population, but doctors are the people interpreting this data, who are under the impression that normal means healthy. If you get nothing else from what I'm saying tonight, normal does not mean healthy. And that's probably true for most medical tests. I believe the levels of other hormones and other things that they test for, I believe they define normal in the same way. Whatever you're being tested for, if the doctor says, oh, you're normal, so you're fine, that's not good enough. Do not accept that answer. If you are in the very low or high range on any medical test, you should be concerned and you should question your doctor and start doing some research on your own. But I transgress. Let me continue with testosterone. So, again, to recap, normal is a statistical calculation that covers 95% of the population. And it's based on the average level of testosterone. Since the average level of testosterone has dropped dramatically over the past few decades, what's considered normal has dropped. So, because we have all these men with unhealthy levels of testosterone in the population now, unhealthy levels are now normalized. So, when your doctor tells you your testosterone level is normal, you need to question him or her about that. And please tell them, if you are concerned about your testosterone level and they're telling you you're fine, you can tell them that normal is not the same as healthy. Healthy is not part of the definition of normal testosterone. Okay, so what are good numbers? Well, the numbers don't tell the whole story. Every hormone has a receptor. So, what hormones do is they go to a target cell. If the target cell has receptors, think of it as a key and a lock. It's like the hormone is the key and the receptor is the lock. So the hormone attaches to the receptor and that instigates or initiates some kind of action within the cell. So these receptors, these hormone receptors, there are different levels of sensitivity that they have to their hormone. And this, at least in the case of testosterone, that level of sensitivity to testosterone is based in genetics. Um, so some men and women are genetically very sensitive to testosterone, and some men and women are genetically very insensitive to testosterone. If you have high testosterone sensitivity, you might be one of the few men out there who has a total testosterone of 300 and you're just fine because you may have all the testosterone you need, but you're an exception. Men who are fine at 300 are an exception. Now, on the other side are guys who have relatively high levels of testosterone and they still have symptoms of low testosterone. And those guys have testosterone receptors that are not very sensitive. And these guys are a very unfortunate group because they will have a lot of trouble getting treatment that they need. So again, these guys that have very insensitive testosterone receptors are the exception. Most men will fall within a standard range, the vast majority of men. But unfortunately, the medical community will say, well, there's some men who are fine at 300. So that must mean every man who has a level of 300 is fine. No, that logic is deeply, deeply flawed. All right. So, excluding the exceptional men on both ends, the ones with very sensitive testosterone receptors and the ones with very insensitive testosterone receptors, excluding those men, what is a good range? All right. Now, keep in mind that the average has fallen by 50%, according to some studies over the past few decades. What is a healthy range? So, there are various medical associations around the world and in the United States, and they stick to the normal range. If you're in the normal range, you're fine. They're just wrong. It's very flawed logic. Doctors who specialize in men's health, and in particular men's sexual health, are usually very much aware that of this idea that normal does not mean healthy. They may not have ever said it like that, but they understand that for most men, 300 for your total testosterone is not adequate. So, what is? All right. Doctors who specialize in men's health generally will say somewhere between 7 and 800 is the low end of the healthy range. I believe that the average testosterone level in men is about 600. The average man is not within the healthy range. 7 to 800 is the beginning of the healthy range. They'll say it's 700, let's just go with the low end. 700 to 1200 is the healthy range. All right. Most men are nowhere near there. Nowhere near there, but they're being told that they're fine. And this is a tragedy of very systemic problems in our medical system. The doctors are treating people by the numbers, and they have a recipe for how to treat a particular ailment, and they go by that. So if the healthy range is like 7 to 1200, and most men are not in that range, and unfortunately, if you're anywhere above 300, most doctors are going to be very reluctant to treat you. Okay, what can you do about it? Well, first of all, if you are worried about your testosterone, if you have symptoms of low testosterone, regardless of what your levels are, you need to see a doctor who specializes in men's health or men's sexual health. Most of those doctors will be able to help you. So, all right, let's say that's not an option. What can you do? There are two ways to try and improve your testosterone level. And most doctors, including doctors who specialize in men's health, will opt for what's called testosterone replacement therapy. All right, TRT for short. So this is just an easy way to get your testosterone up. You take testosterone. There are various forms of testosterone. The most common is testosterone incipient. I think I'm pronouncing that correctly. And they will tell you to inject a certain amount. Modern protocols for injection are usually twice a week. There's some doctors who are still sticking to some very old protocols, calling for injections once every 2 weeks. If you have a doctor who's giving you testosterone and is only injecting you once every 2 weeks, you need to get a new doctor. Unless they have a very good explanation as to why they're injecting you every 2 weeks when modern protocols are calling for twice a week, then you need to get a new doctor. All right. So if you're on TRT, hopefully you're injecting twice a week. It can be more often, but twice a week is kind of standard. All right. That'll definitely get your testosterone up. But doing it artificially does come with some risks. And I won't go deep into this, but one of the major risks is that you will become infertile. Another way, and the way I think people should try first, is by using natural methods, by supporting your body's ability to make testosterone. To support your body's ability to make testosterone, you basically have to support your health. I'm always saying that sexual health is general health with a very particular goal or a very specific goal. So how do you support your health? It's not rocket science. You eat right. You clean up your diet. People want me to recommend a diet. I usually recommend the Mediterranean diet. Get rid of junk food, get rid of processed foods, eat natural foods, and eat organic. And why do you want to eat organic? I'll get into that in a second. So, next thing you can do is exercise. So, there's a lot of confusion about how to use exercise to help your testosterone levels. the idea behind exercising is to get healthy. Now, exercise can directly influence your testosterone levels. I don't believe for most people that direct influence is all that significant. But if you do heavy weightlifting and high intensity interval training and those type of exercises, your testosterone levels will. How much? Again, I don't think it's significant, but it will definitely increase your testosterone levels for most men. If you do cardio, it can lower your testosterone. So a lot of guys will only lift weights and do high intensity interval training and they won't do any cardio. And this is a mistake. Okay. That, they're deathly afraid of walking a mile because it's going to lower their testosterone levels. And your body is a very complicated system. And aerobic exercise, AKA cardio, is an important part of maintaining your health. It helps you to regulate your metabolic levels by stimulating the use of your mitochondria, which they're the powerhouse of the cells. So the benefits of doing some cardio, the health benefits, outweigh the risk of lowering your testosterone. And while I do support weightlifting and high intensity interval training, if you're only going to do those because you want to raise your testosterone, you're kind of missing the boat. You need a balanced exercise program to support your health. And if you are healthy, you're going to be better able to produce testosterone. The body is a complex system, and there's no perfect lifestyle, there's no perfect exercise program. And the best programs have a variety of different types of activity. Cardio, strength, and power are all elements, and there are many other elements to fitness, but are all important elements to maintaining your health. Okay, so diet, exercise, a big one is sleep. If you're not getting enough sleep, you're going to have lower testosterone. And it seems from what I've read that the ideal, and it's going to vary again from person to person, the ideal is like 7 to 9 hours. So yeah, if you're not sleeping well for 7 to 9 hours, you're probably going to have lower testosterone. The reason is that when you're sleeping, that's when your body produces testosterone. And when you wake up in the morning, for most men, they are going to have the highest level of testosterone for the day at that point. So they will wake up with a high level of testosterone, and over the course of the day, it will kind of drop. And then you go back to sleep, you replenish your testosterone levels. So it's not rocket science. Clean up your diet, get exercise. Oh, another thing I want to say about exercise, don't exercise to extremes. The problem with low testosterone for cardio is primarily for people who are doing very extreme levels of endurance exercise, like running marathons or doing bike races that are 100 miles or doing ultra marathons. Those people are definitely going to lower their testosterone significantly. And the other end of the other extreme end is, if you're doing like bodybuilding, or if you're a CrossFit competitor, some people do quite well, but most of us are not constructed to do that kind of extreme level of strength training. And that could affect your health. It won't necessarily lower your testosterone, but it could affect your health in other ways. So the next thing I want to talk about is avoiding environmental toxins. Now, there are a lot of different environmental toxins, but the ones I'm going to focus on are called endocrine disrupting compounds. So what these compounds do is screw up your endocrine system. If you don't know what the endocrine system is, that's your system of hormones and how you make hormones and how you use hormones. Testosterone is a hormone, estrogen is a hormone, cortisol is a hormone, insulin is a hormone. So if you have these endocrine disrupting compounds entering your system, you can really mess up your health. All right. So there is a lot of data that suggests that the two major reasons why people have lower testosterone, that men have lower testosterone, is lifestyle. They're not living a healthy lifestyle. And the other one are these endocrine disrupting compounds, or EDCs for short. I'll just call them EDCs. What's happening is that these environmental toxins, these EDCs, are getting into our system, and they mimic estrogen. They're estrogenic. What that does is, in both men and women, it contributes to infertility. Okay, infertility rates are going up at 1% a year, and that may not sound like a lot, but after a few years, that 1% keeps adding up. Right now, 1 in 4 couples who are trying to conceive cannot conceive naturally. When I was growing up, that was unheard of. Okay, when I was a kid, that was unheard of, and that number is rising. 1 in 4 couples need help to conceive children. And if it goes up at 1% a year, in not too many years, it will be 50% of couples. And if that trend continues, it will eventually make it impossible for us to have children naturally without medical intervention. Okay, so another problem with these EDCs is they're making us fatter. The estrogenic properties are causing us to put on more weight. That's an effect of estrogen. Estrogen causes the body to put on extra layers of fat. It's well known that women who have higher levels of estrogen than men have more body fat. Now, they need that body fat. And to be a healthy woman, you need a higher level of body fat than a man. But estrogen is the reason why women have more body fat. Well, now we're getting inundated with these estrogenic chemicals, and part of the reason that there's an obesity epidemic is that these estrogenic compounds are messing with our endocrine systems. Now, that's not the only reason. A lot of it is diet. It's lifestyle and toxins. A lot of people are fat because they have a crap diet. So clean up your diet and avoid toxins, and that will help you lose weight. Okay. See, this really isn't rocket science. I think a lot of people are not aware of the environmental toxins, but it all makes sense when you talk about it. All right. So how do you avoid these environmental toxins? Well, there are many sources of these environmental toxins, and there are whole books written about it. I have the book right here. Yep, I do. Sorry for turning around, but that is unfortunately backward, isn't it? I don't know if you can see that, but the title of the book is Estrogeneration: How Estrogenics Are Making You Fat, Sick, and Infertile, by Anthony G. J, spelled Jay, PhD. This is like my Bible on this subject. So, highly recommend you read it. It will change your life. Okay. Well, there are many sources of these compounds. It seems like the major sources are plastics. Look at all the plastic around us, the amount of plastic, the microplastics that are proliferating in the environment. These plastics are estrogenic. Another major source is the pesticides they put on our food. So that's why earlier I said to eat organic, because organic food has far less of these pesticides on it. I don't think it's zero, but they attempt to grow this food without the use of pesticides. So by eating organic, you are greatly reducing your exposure to these toxins. And like I said, there are many, many sources of these toxins. You should read this book and read other books on the same topic. It blew my mind. I'm betting it's going to blow yours. And the evidence for all of this is just accumulating. A few years ago, it was hardly known, and now the scientific community is waking up to it, and the medical community is waking up to it, and it's starting to get out into public consciousness. So I'm doing my bit to get this out into public consciousness. You can see how passionate I am about this topic. So, two things you can do to avoid plastics: get all the plastic you can out of your kitchen. Do not store your food in plastic containers. Find glass, metal, or ceramic containers to store your food in. Do the same thing in your bathroom. If you have a plastic shower curtain, replace it with a cloth shower curtain. Personal care products, a lot of personal care products are filled with toxic chemicals. The government does a horrible job of regulating our exposure to toxic chemicals. So in the United States, they can put any chemical they want into anything unless it's proven to be toxic. It's assumed to be non-toxic. And a lot of chemicals that we know are very toxic are still in our personal care products. So find personal care products that are made from natural substances. I will say that as far as personal care products, I have not found a good substitute for as an antiperspirant, but as a deodorant, I found that colloidal silver. I spray colloidal silver on my armpits. It's the best thing I've ever used as a deodorant. As far as an antiperspirant, I haven't found a good replacement for the toxic stuff I used to use, but I just live with sweaty armpits. Let me wrap this up. We've discussed a lot. I started with testosterone and the problems with the medical community and how they interpret testosterone tests and why they are wrong or why they are misinterpreting the tests. I also covered some of the things you can do to treat low testosterone. The artificial way is through TRT, and I am on TRT, by the way, but I think everybody who has low testosterone should try natural methods before going to TRT. I went over those natural methods. It's basically common sense health stuff plus avoiding environmental toxins. All right, so that's kind of a recap. So if you have questions, I want you to reach out to me. Until the next video, thank you for watching, and goodbye.